A 23-year-old Doug Yule took over as band leader for the Velvet Underground on August 26, 1970, when Lou Reed decided to retire from the music business and went back to live with his parents out in Long Island. He quit the group during the final two shows of their residency at Max's Kansas City. One day, he didn't show up for their August 26th show. The band's manager, Steve Sesnick, told everyone that Lou had retired from show business and the band as a trio would finish their last two shows. Billy Yule, Doug's teenage brother, who was the drummer for the band during their residency, left the group as well and returned the drumming duties back to Maureen Tucker when they began the tour in November. The Velvet Underground's lineup was also restructured, with Yule taking over vocals and rhythm guitar, Sterling Morrison on lead guitar, and Walter Powers, Doug's former bandmate in the Glass Menagerie, on bass. Due to their contract with Atlantic Records, the band toured around the United States in small clubs and venues to support the album that was released in November. They began touring, playing 4 shows from the 19th to the 26th at the Main Point in Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania. After a holiday break in December, which the lineup recorded 2 demos for their second album with Atlantic Records. The 2 tracks the band worked on were Friends and She'll Make You Cry. These songs would later appear in the band's final album, Squeeze. The band was back on the road in January of 1971, playing a nearly a month-long engagement at the Alpine in North Conway, New Hampshire. According to Doug Yule, the venue was inside a ski lodge near the bar. The stage was not that much bigger than a dining room table. The band's manager, Steve Sesnick, with no money coming in from the record label, had to use whatever connections he had to fund the tour. And on January 29th and 30th, the group played dates at the Electric Circus in New York City. In February, the band returned to the Alpine and played several gigs from the 3rd to the 5th. In March, they returned to the Electric Circus and played 2 shows on the 12th and 13th. The Velvet Underground then hit the road in April and played 4 shows, 2 in New York at the Rock Pile in Island Park, New York, with Cactus opening for them, and on the 23rd and 24th, they traveled to Columbus, Ohio, and played 2 shows at the Agora. On May 1st, the band played in Youngstown, Ohio, opening for the Alice Cooper Band at the Struthers Fieldhouse. The next day, they performed at the Happiness Is with Big Rat, opening for them in Youngstown. On May 5th, the group played at a small club in St. Louis, Missouri called the Music Palace. A couple of days later, they traveled to Michigan and performed at the Palladium in Birmingham. Around this time, Walter Powers broke his jaw falling down a flight of stairs in Detroit. He tried to perform during their upcoming tour in June of New England, but he couldn't and was replaced at the last minute by Larry Estridge for a show in Gloucester, Massachusetts. Future Velvet Underground member Rob Norris offered his services to the band, but Powers recovered and resumed his bass playing duties after missing a few shows. The Velvet Underground played 2 weeks in New England with residencies at the Tubbs Inn from June 4th and 5th and 9th to the 12th in Vermont. Between those shows, they played at the Stonehenge in Massachusetts from June 11th to the 13th. On June 15th, they played at the Palladium again in Birmingham, Michigan, opening for the Grease Band. The next day, they played at the Kiel Auditorium in St. Louis, opening for Buddy Miles along with the MC5. 2 days later, they performed in Detroit, Michigan, headlining a show at the Vanity Ballroom. On June 24th to the 27th, the Velvet Underground has a residency at the Main Point in Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania. On July 10th, the band traveled to North Baltimore, Ohio, to perform at an outdoor concert called The Park, headlined by the Paul Butterfield Blues Band, but they didn't show up, so the Velvet Underground acted as a headlining act and performed until after midnight in a rain-drenched show in front of some soaked yet happy fans. In August, the band played a 4-date residency at Club Atlantis in Revere, Massachusetts, before heading off for Texas, which would be the last 3 dates Sterling Morrison would play in the band. On August 19th, the band would play a gig opening for Cactus at the El Paso Coliseum in El Paso, Texas, and 2 all-age shows at the Liberty Hall in Houston, Texas from August 20th and the 21st. Doug Yule on how Sterling Morrison left the band. Did you hear how Sterling left? We were in Houston, I think. We had played a weekend, and at the time we would fly out and fly back. We went to Houston, played a weekend, got up on Sunday or Monday morning, getting ready to leave. Everybody gets in the car and heads out. Everybody throws their suitcases in the back. Sterling comes around with a big brown soft suitcase, throws in the back, gets into the car. We all drive out to the airport. We get out and we're walking up to the counter, and Sterling stops and says, "Oh, by the way, I'm not going back with you." I said to him, "Where are you going now?" And he says, "I'm going back to the hotel." And I said, "Why did you bring your suitcase?" He said, "I don't know." And I said, "Is there anything in it?" He says, "No." Morrison remained in Houston to continue his studies in medieval literature and to get a job as a teaching assistant at the University of Texas at Austin. Now, the Velvet Underground was without a lead guitarist and the last remaining original member. Stay tuned for part 2. I hope you have enjoyed this episode of Cuppy's Music Curios. My name is Cuppy, and I hope to see you soon. Cheerio!